It's June 6th, 2019, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
This is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you, as always, from the Co-Prosperity Sphere here in beautiful, lovely Bridgeport, Chicago, the community of the future. We're in Studio B, not for a change, always here, once again. Studio A seems fairly calm. They're setting up for a show, pretty cool show going on, it looks like, out there, or will be going on, I should say. So I want to thank Lumpen Radio for having us here yet again, and I want to thank everyone here at Lumpen Radio, with one exception, that being Serge, who was canned last week, so don't be looking for him anytime soon. Kicked him out to Cupertino, California. I said, get as far away as you can from me. I'm disgusted. Go, whatever's out in Cupertino, just go find a job there, whatever, you know, where all the losers work and stuff like that. So I banished him for several months, at least. So I don't want to thank Serge, but I do want to thank everyone else here at Lumpen Radio, especially Mr. Logan Bay, the fearless leader, for having us on again. And I want to thank you guys for listening. If you're out there listening over the airwaves on 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio, thank you for tuning in. You can hop onto the chat room if you so wish, see what's going on there, and that's the Lumpen Radio chat room. And otherwise, what's up?
How does one get into that chat room?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's tlk.io/WLPN. Nice catch there. Nameless voice. I have a feeling you'll be named first, probably. But anyway, if you are listening over, listening over the airwaves or listening via podcast, like most of you are, I think, thank you for listening as well. And if you could leave a review or something like that, that'd be great. We started a little bit of the first ever like blatant self-promotional call to action we've ever done on almost 200 episodes, or coming up on 200 episodes, which was leave a review on iTunes, and if I think it's funny, I'll send you a limited edition Dust Brothers Zombie Dust T-shirt. So go ahead and do that, and if I like it, I'll send you one. You can also get a shirt by sending us an actual letter, no electronic letters. Send an actual letter to, 3219 South Morgan Street, Chicago, Illinois 60608. So I'll mention that right off the bat. So, but anyway, thanks. No matter how you're listening, thank you for doing so. Always appreciated. If you're listening for the first time, I like to give a little rundown of what we are trying to do here. And basically, this show, the Insiders Roundtable, is me trying to recreate some of the experiences that I really enjoy most about being in the beer industry, which is sitting down with people who are passionate about beer and whose livelihoods or lives in some way revolve around beer in some form or another, whether they are making beer or selling beer or educating people about beer or bilking people out of money so they can sue people over beer or whatever it is.
Whoa.
Well, I'm not. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. These are my favorite experiences. My father was an attorney. I can say whatever I want. Anyway, I love getting people together who are educated and passionate about beer. In all honesty, and just talking. So that's what I try to recreate to some degree with this show, the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. And thank you so much for joining us, because it is a pleasure to be able to do this each and every week. So with that, I want to introduce my guests. And I will, before I introduce them, I do want to say that the opinions of my guests are their own and solely their own, and not affiliated with any other entity, such as Lumpen Radio. I was told to say that by an attorney one time. And you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to introduce people not as we always do. For the first time ever, we're not going to do it in order of seniority. I lied, Mr. Mastny. We're going to do it in order of who I dissed most. So it's going to go to Mr. Ashley Brandt. How are you, Mr. Brandt?
I bear you no ill will.
Oh, thanks, man. I knew it. That's why I said it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
Exactly. What's new with you, man?
You know,
What brings you down here?
Life is good. Your show.
Oh, you just said you wanted to hang out.
I wanted to hang out with you guys tonight, so I thought I'd come down, and I couldn't have picked a better crowd.
Yeah, that's all. You just want to be down here
Absolutely.
and hanging out?
I'm very excited to be here.
You know, for a lawyer, you're kind of smooth talking.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right? Man.
I don't know.
Well, I can't wait to give you some money. Well, thanks for coming by. Maybe it'll turn into some work for you, so we'll see. Keep it up. Keep up the good talk. So my next guest is the most senior member of the panel, and senior being how many times they've been on the show. That's the only seniority I care about, Mr. Steve Mastny.
Yeah, I've been slacking lately, but I've been here a number of times in the past, so I'm just, I guess, cruising on fumes here at this point.
You're on vapors. Aren't we all? Come on.
And they're making them legal here soon, so
That's true.
I have some questions for Mr. Brandt about that maybe they'll be off microphone later, but seems like there'd be some possibilities for the alcohol industry that are sort of specifically precluded in some of the legislation, yet I suspect may occur a little bit anyway.
You're talking about some of the recent legislation that was passed that may soon allow for recreational marijuana use in the state of Illinois.
Oh, I was thinking of the registration going up for electric vehicles.
Oh, yeah, I figured that's what you meant. It was one of those two.
Right, obviously.
Well, thanks for coming on nonetheless, and maybe you can
having
get
me,
your
Chris.
electric car questions answered on or off air.
One would hope.
Yeah. Just remember, there is a multiplier on time when you're on the air, so every 15 minutes counts double. So it's going to be a half-hour charge for every 15 minutes of on-air conversation.
That does make sense.
That's just general standard.
And honestly, that's a pretty good deal because that means that all I'm paying for is myself and the audience. All you guys just get it for free.
Exactly. It's almost like you've been told why. Yeah, it's good. Okay, well done. My next guest is Mr. Ray Daniels of the Cicerone Certification Program.
Cicerone.
Yeah.
Stop making fun of my license plate.
I thought it was Crusherone, but that's Mr. Fahey.
That's somebody else.
That's a competing. That's a competing
staff member.
Yeah, certificate. But they're not mutually exclusive. You can be both. You can. There's at least one person who's proven you can be a master Cicerone and a master Crusherone. How are you? We were talking about you just the last week, I believe.
That explains the pain.
Yeah,
Clearly. Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about your travels abroad.
Aha. Yes. So I'm not supposed to talk about that?
No, you absolutely can, because I was asking because according to Pat, your I guess photographic exploits on Instagram maybe outreached your actual time and presence there, because it was funny. We were more than one person mentioned to me, like, have you seen Ray's Instagram lately? I mean, he's killing it. There's amazing pictures. So we all assumed you were like, taking up some sort of like sabbatical in Japan, but apparently you were there on a layover, according to Pat. So
Yeah. Japan was like brief, fleeting.
Yeah.
And indeed, the little foray down to Hitachino Nest's tap room in downtown Tokyo was unplanned and full of surprises. That included a very expensive Uber ride back to the hotel later that night.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the size of your bucket, I could see that being a beer bucket list thing, like actually going to Hitachino in, going there or to a tap room there and stuff. Yeah.
When did they start importing that particular beer? Because I remember it from the early 2000s as like a mainstay on the shelves. But thinking about it, it couldn't have been too long before that, I wouldn't think.
I would say about then it would be my perception. They I don't know. I mean my feeling is they've been around since the late 90s, but not 100% certain on that. I mean, I like their beers, and so I mean having them fresh, in their own retail facility. Well, they've got a little brewery there, but I don't think any of the beers I drank were brewed there. But yeah, I was like, oh man, I knew this red rice beer was good, but man, when it's fresh, yeah.
Red rice, white.
And the white, yeah,
White's
of course,
great.
too. And the
espresso
really
stout,
pops, yeah, I didn't get that far. So
Okay.
They had an IPA I did try and I did like. So at that point, it was like, okay, turn it into a pumpkin here. Time to go.
Well, that's super cool. And
I was also in China and Vietnam. I'll talk about those when we get to beers.
Okay. Well, there you go. Kind of cut me off.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's fine.
You know how I roll.
I do. I do. If you want to hear about it or read about it or learn about it, I guess just go to his Instagram page. Man, my final guest is Mr. Adam Vavrick, who is I'm not sure. I just know he's the lord of some castle, or was deposed of some. I don't know. Anyway, he's here now. And he kind of looks like some sort of feudal, not middle-aged, but
like
medieval.
Like a Viking kind of sort of
Viking, that's what I meant.
Huh.
How
He's
are
not
you?
tall enough to be a Viking.
Yeah.
Got the long flowing locks. Unlike everyone else in the room who's bald,
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
Balding.
speak for yourself.
Yeah, balding. Thank you very much.
That's true. If this is seniority
I
in
remember-
hair, I win.
This is a short haircut.
I remember when I used to say that. I remember when I was able to say that at one time. Balding. Okay. Yeah, those were the days. Anyway, how are you and your long flowing locks, Mr. Adam Vavrick?
I'm great.
What's new with you?
Not much. I was just up on a cliff recently, overlooking a mesa, like a long desert with wind blowing
Ooh,
my hair.
nice.
No, I don't
Was
know.
the film crew very big?
No,
Yeah,
very
okay.
small.
Okay.
No, just one.
There can be only one.
Yeah.
Were you wearing a V-neck?
I don't wear V-necks. Everybody knows this.
Everyone knows.
Everyone
that.
knows this. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated. Man, we got through that relatively quickly for having 4 guests, and for me kind of rambling on as I do. So I think we should probably just get into it, since I was stonewalled before. What beers have you had lately, Ray? Would you like to go?
Oh gosh, what? Yeah, right. I was at the Stone Brewing facility in Shanghai, so I've had some lovely.
I didn't even know there was one there.
Chinese stone brew beers.
What was it like?
So, it was pretty damn good, and it was kind of a lot like stone brewed beers in the States. So.
Yeah. Did that surprise you, or is that what you expected?
No, it's what I expected. But they've got a small brewery there, do some pilot brewing, some local beers that are just there, and then I think they bring a lot of stuff over as well. But nice beers, nice operation. Kind of what you would expect of Stone as a retail spot. So that was cool.
Is that kind of a big thing there where it's I know Mikkeller was one of the first that I know of in the craft world who was kind of opening satellite locations, although I think that was almost a franchise situation. And I know Lagunitas had mentioned that they wanted to kind of get out to Asia, but I don't know if they actually have a presence there. Goose Island certainly does.
Yep.
Isn't
Been there.
Brewdog planning one too?
I mean, I would imagine.
I hear Brewdog's working on something,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's happened yet.
Yeah. So what's the vibe out there from an American style craft beer standpoint?
Well, so Shanghai, remember, first of all, Shanghai is like the most Western city in China. That's the first place any Western, concept comes to try and launch and see if it works. Because if it won't work in Shanghai, it's sure as hell not going to work anywhere else in China.
Got it.
So everybody's there. If you go to Beijing, it's really much more of a local Chinese craft beer scene. And I have not been to Beijing, doing work. It's been a good number of years, 10, 11 years. Since
How
I've
many
been
times have you been to
Beijing.
China?
In my life?
Yeah.
5-6 times now. So, yeah.
Whoa.
But I have not been to Beijing recently. Haven't been in a good while. So, yeah. So, but had some local beer. There was a little local brewery called Dream, and they've got a rating app, somewhat similar to a certain U.S. company that sounds like what I just said. And went and did a little interview with them, recorded and did a little video, and so I'm probably famous in China by now.
You're the Jerry Lewis of China.
Or at least, if they can actually understand me.
Yeah.
So I had some, nice local beers there and saw that scene. I think most of the places over there are pretty small because, the demand's just not there yet, and they're kind of starting small and hoping to grow from there. I mean, even the Stone facility is more modest than you would normally expect.
Right.
It's got the same quality of build and sort of grand scale to it, but it's ultimately a pretty small,
Compact.
pretty small space. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was cool. And then I went from there to Vietnam, and Vietnam's still kind of a good 20-30 years.
I heard it's locked down. I've heard, and I don't have anything to go by other than the accounts I've heard. And Logan lived in Vietnam for a while, and pretty locked down. The locals and the local beer barons have stuff pretty under lock and key.
There is some craft beer, but again, it's small. It's definitely early times there. I visited Heart of Darkness, which is one of the main ones in Ho Chi Minh City, formerly Saigon. Pasteur Street, and again, both of them are pretty small. You could fit both of them and probably a few others in Studio A out there. So
Those are
Right.
expats, right, from other countries
yeah,
that are opening
those are expats that are doing those. Yeah, I don't know of any native-born Vietnamese that are heading up places now. There were some Vietnamese working, both serving staff but also brewing staff. I met some brewers one night.
That's cool.
And they were avidly interested in asking questions and asking good questions and all that stuff. So it's fun to see, but the presence of exports there was almost non-existent. Like, I didn't see a German beer the entire time I was in Vietnam. I didn't see a British beer. I heard that there were Belgian beers, but I never saw any of them. I barely saw, I saw Rogue and maybe one other American craft brewery on a bar on a bar
What
list.
did
one
you
time.
see?
Were there French beers?
Local. No, it was just local stuff, because I went to one beer bar, brew pub beer bar, and they had their 3 beers and all the beers from Heart of Darkness and Pasteur Street, the other 2 local breweries, and then they had 2 or 3 American imports, and that was it.
That's kind of what I had heard. It's all locked down by the local macro producers.
Well, yeah, they seem to have a pretty strong presence as well. So.
That's what I'd heard.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anything that you've had lately or are looking forward to having, beer wise, or otherwise?
I've been drinking Revolution pills at home.
Oh man, same. The new batches have been insane.
Yeah, it's very good. it's easy to drink. You get home from work and you're like, yeah, a beer would be nice, and you're like, yes, I'll have this one that's right here. And I've had the last few months we've been doing some work around our house. We're trying to build another house essentially, and so crews coming to clear trees and do this and do that. And I'll tell you, you offer these guys a beer while they're working, and it's like it really makes a world of difference, like to just like overall everybody being copacetic, and they all like the Rev Pills too. So
There you go.
Honestly, that was going to be mine. I don't know what they've done recently, and I've had that beer numerous times.
Triple hops brewed.
Nice. I bet. Yeah, that's probably it. I do think there was a hop change. I'm just guessing. That's just
They've toned it down a
speculation.
little bit.
Yeah.
That beer was so incredibly hoppy when it first came out.
Yeah.
Not bad, but just so hoppy.
There's a mintiness to it now that wasn't present before. That just sort of like it's almost like acting as an emulsifier and just makes the whole thing pop in a way that it hadn't prior. I've been thrilled with it, and I want to say I can date that to.
Somebody from
Where are
Rev
we,
may be
June?
listening to the show.
I want to say, no, I'm serious. I wrote it down. I don't have it with me, but I wrote it down in a different notebook that I carry, and it said something like, I think it was like April 24th or April 28th or something like that. Like that batch was significantly different.
For the record, Adam has a stack of notebooks in front of him right now. But
Yeah.
I have the laptop. The notebook's in the back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's also kind of interesting that we have this beer of the month thing that we do, and Max, the gentleman who runs the that beer of the month club at this point, suggested Rev Pills just for this most recent one because he said, it's not overlooked in the grand sense, but of kind of people who come here, it kind of is overlooked, and it might be nice to put that back in, and it's been tasting really good lately. So it's interesting that, when there are subtle changes or when there aren't changes and it just continues to be good, people notice. So that's cool. How about you, Ashley? Anything you've had that you've been interested in lately?
no, I was I had an exclusive month where it was Dovetail Lager, just because I could get it by me rather than having to go down to the brewery, and I thought that was a lot of fun.
Why is that? Oh, because it was in the...
Yeah, it was in the cans now.
Yeah, right. Got it. All right. Well, for me, let me think. Kind of came around to me. You guys are pros. You're just getting around quick. Yeah. Caught me off guard.
We prepare for the show, Chris.
Sure
yeah,
you
I
do.
even read
Sure
the
you do.
notes sometimes.
Sure you do. I don't even read the notes, and I write them. Beers I have had lately that I have liked would have to be a beer made out of
barley.
barley. That's true. I'm trying to think what I've had lately. Paracelsus is back. That beer is always so nice. Oh, I know what it is. And for all those people who say that I hate hazy beers, and I'm always hating on hazy beers, I had a Maplewood Son of Juice just last night, and it was exceptionally good. I had it on draft, and I went and I had a second one on draft because I thought it was so good, and it hit the spot. I thought it was really well balanced for that style. It certainly wasn't overly bitter by any means, but it did have some dryness to it, some bite, some perceived bitterness and dryness, and it really just hit the spot. Incredibly, aromatically hoppy. So a very good example to me of a nice lighter New England style IPA.
Is perceived bitterness even allowed in such a thing?
Well, I mean, I would say that the best examples of the style have it. I think if if they can sneak it in there, they will secretly make their beer drinkable. And when I don't mean drinkable like I can't drink this beer, but I mean you will drink more of it if there is some bitterness. I mean, I know you're classically kind of a malt guy, Ray. Is that fair to say? I mean, you like...
No, I mean I like hops. I have been a hop maven for a very long time. I was drinking IPAs in the 90s before IPA was a thing, before brewers would even call them IPAs
Before it was
because
cool.
nobody knew what they
Yeah.
were. But I am really burned out on bitterness, and there's so many of the IPAs today that are just like, no, I can't, I'm not having fun here. I'm wishing this were over so I could stop hurting myself, stop torturing myself. So I actually like the New England IPAs, and darn it, there is bitterness in there. Just because, it's not ripping your tongue off, it's definitely there.
Sometimes, I would say.
No, it's there. There's
You think?
bitterness. Oh, yeah, come on. There's always bitterness there. If you put hops in a beer, there's
Right.
bitterness, right?
But sometimes they put them all so late. I mean, Whirlpool-only editions and stuff like that. Yes, there is some conversion. There is some bitterness. But are you perceiving it over the the sweetness of the beer? I mean, barley wines have bitterness too, but often they are incredibly sweet.
I would argue yes, but for two reasons. One, the isohumulone comes out due to extraction and alcohol. A lot of these
So
late
explain
addition
that
and dry
to
hops.
people what you're talking about.
So you get bitterness from hops. Usually that happens in boiling. However, you can also extract that bitter compound through alcohol. So if you have an IPA in a tank and you dry hop it with a whole bunch of hops, in theory, you're not going to get a ton of bitterness, but you will get some extraction for the same reason you get any type of extraction in an alcohol solution when you make things like vanilla extract or whatever. The second thing is carbonation. I think some of these NE IPAs are a little bit more carbonated than you might expect over 2.4, 2.7 volumes of CO2. And so that carbonation, carbonic acid, lends itself to a bitterness that balances out. I think it's an interesting interplay between all the ingredients that are going on in this beer and finding a way to balance it without having to say we have 90 IBUs or 40 IBUs instead of 90. I don't know. It's something I've been sort of struggling with because
40 IBUs, I'd be happy with 40. 40 IBUs sounds great to me.
But what
talking like
if you were to guess
one.
If you were to guess, what would you think that some of these have? Because I think the answer
It depends.
probably
I mean,
is
some
in
of
a
these
range
it's-
between 20 and 40. Honestly, it's the what you're tasting most of and what the ancillary flavors are pushing you to not necessarily notice them as much. Remember, we also drink with our eyes
Sure,
too.
it's perceived.
So we're
Right.
we're just as subject to bias as anybody else is because we know what the style is, and not necessarily, and that isn't necessarily translating to what our palate perceives because of it.
I've definitely noticed that when I drink some of those not cited and I don't know what they are, I perceive them differently and then I pour it out. I'm like, wouldn't have guessed this.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And that goes with really any beer and any beer style. So, being told to mention that you're listening to WLPNLP Chicago 105.5. I think what I'm also being subtly urged to mention is that there are some other shows here.
Wait, isn't that on Lumpin' Radio?
Yes, that is Lumpin' Radio, and there's other shows here on Lumpin' Radio. And if you listen, you might hear about what some of those other shows are, or some of the fine people that make Lumpin' Radio possible. So why don't we hear what those folks have to say, and then we'll be back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by a full cast of seasoned experts of this show, Mr. Ashley Brandt, Esquire, Mr. Stephen Mastny, not Esquire.
PE.
PE. Mr.
And CC.
Okay.
Even better.
All right. Mr. Ray Daniels.
Very full.
Yeah, very full. You've got a lot of things that you could add on there. And Mr. Vav Adam,
Smiling politely.
smiling politely.
Just like you see right here.
Yeah, there you go. So let's. It's funny. I mean, before I even knew that we were going to be talking about this, Ashley, before I even knew that you were going to be on the show, I decided we were going to talk about some of the new beer laws that passed in Illinois, and I only like to cite the most respectable sources for all this stuff. So, where did I get my source material?
Say it with pride.
It was libationlawblog.com.
Excellent.
I was very young when we came up with that name.
And I even said, and without actually, you didn't see the outline until just recently, and I said worth reading Ashley's take on this because it's total crap is what I deleted as soon as I knew you were going to be on the show. And I mean, well, let's just take it away.
Let me ask
Why
this.
don't you set it up?
Are you excited about this or not?
No.
Okay.
About growlers and crowlers.
About growlers and growlers. So let's back up. So recently, Illinois
What is there to be excited about?
decided to go ahead and pass a law that expanded the sale of growlers and crowlers beer, solely beer, no other substance, and offered that right to retail licensees. So it's no longer a brew pub or a brewery that can sell it. That it's not restricted. Any restaurant, any bar can sell it to you. That's basically it, with a lot of fiats and caveats about pouring and cleaning
And this takes effect in what year? What year does this take effect?
Well, I did not note any. I have to go back and look.
It still has to pass the Senate, right?
No, it's passed.
Does it take
And
effect?
so the
does it
governor
take
has to
effect
sign it.
first, then, right?
Does it take
Since
effect
it-
6 years ago?
No.
Oh, well then it's irrelevant.
Since
Okay.
point duly noted.
Wow.
If it was passed in the spring session and there's no enactment clause and the governor signs it, I believe it becomes effective immediately.
That's cool.
So
No, I mean it's a good thing overall. I think it's good for consumers overall. I think.
Well, remember,
I
we're a
think
border
it's fine.
state, so that there are individuals who may come to border
remember.
breweries and want that. You remember this? This is one
Yes.
of my arguments is that people in Rock Island, Illinois, or in
Yes.
Bellevue or Carbondale or those individuals may
Those
have
poor
sales
schmucks.
from St. Louis and Iowa, where people want to come across the border and
Yes.
get something they couldn't otherwise get. So there's that. But yeah, I share the sentiment that apart from my mythical instance, this was something that would have been great 10 years ago.
Can I
Yeah.
just completely agree and say I'm so happy that it's finally passed?
Why?
I mean, this was something that I was working on significantly back in the Binny's days because I thought it added an extra avenue of sale for all breweries involved. It would potentially open up the market to people that might not otherwise grab it because they'd be in an area where they might be able to buy something that they wouldn't be able to get on in package that they could grab on draft to take home. It just opened up the playing field so significantly for so many different parties. And yes, the retailer gets a lot of money out of it too, but that goes all the way through the entire chain and gives the consumer a better chance of getting more access to beer, or at least more what's the word I'm looking for? Better packaging options, or more packaging options. More.
I gotta say, I'm the doubter on this. To me, this just looks like a bone that brewers are throwing to retailers. Saying
could
sorry,
use it,
sorry,
so
our
that's
tap
okay.
rooms, sorry, you think our tap rooms are taking business from you. Here's a little bone. You can sell growlers and crowlers. To
And
go now.
if Pat Berger were here, he would agree. He had
I
posted
think he said
many
that.
times.
I think he used
it was
that
like
term,
verbatim,
throwing a bone.
to us.
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. I am highly cynical and very curmudgeonly in this show, and I think to a fault, I will say. But in this instance, I don't think it's going to have any effect on overall sales for really any brewer. I don't think it's going to affect them positively or negatively. I think I used the example of I was talking to an owner of a brew pub the other day, and he mentioned that they don't even sell growlers anymore. If you bring one in, they'll fill it, but it's like they don't even sell them just because they probably don't feel like paying for new glass anymore. And it's not because the crowler station is humming. I just think it's irrelevant, and so for that, to me, it's. I mean, I think it's throwing a bone in the true sense, where it's like I just had a feast. Here's a bone, It's like it almost is. To say it's offensive is not true. It's not offensive in any way, but it is like if you think that this is going to make people happy, well, then that's offensive. But I don't think anyone really thinks that.
I think the offensive part is in the idea that Section B mandates the 3 different ways in which a retailer is allowed to fill the growler, must clean the growler, and then
Completely agree.
Oh my
No,
god!
I think it's
no,
in
that
what
was
the-
that
I
was
said.
that's significant because
Go
that
for
was
it.
one of the major issues with the barrier to entry to this in the first place was saying that a retailer, and I did always take offense to this, that as a retailer I would not be able to handle the quality or standard that the brewery required in order to have their beer served.
But now
in
we're
a
all in the
manner
same
that
playing
they were,
field, so now everyone has to do it. And
this was-
that's
no,
fine.
they
what's
they
this?
yeah right. No, they didn't
What do you
include
mean,
that
Ashley?
for
What
brewers
happens?
and brew pubs. They got accepted from that.
They're exempted
They
from having to
obviously,
do all
you know,
that stuff.
they know how to
That's
do
so
it.
funny.
that had to get dumped.
the
Oh.
labeling of the growler and certain restrictions on the packaging actually technically because of the way the law was drafted only apply to the retailers and don't necessarily apply to the brewers who are pouring, even though brewers now have the right to sell any other beer in their tap room. We could obviously be pouring beer from someone else into a growler. I don't know. I you know, maybe once every 5 years I take a growler to a party.
Right.
I'm in favor of access. I'm entirely in favor of opening up the methods in which people can experience things, and I 100% want this to be a thing. But the idea that it's so late.
I feel the same way that I did when we had this big thing when Zach Rotello came on. Sure, it's fine. Who cares? It's such a terrible vessel for beer. It's not worth even going for. I think
Right.
more.
It's good if you're going to drink the beer within an hour or so. You know, it's like I was maybe going to bring a growler of the Rev Pills from my keg at home here, and I decided, that's too much work. But, like, it would have been the right vessel.
Right. Exactly. That or whatever was left in the keg and just bring a party pump. Yeah, it's
I like how
it's
you're
fine.
all crapping on this.
Yeah.
What you're failing to realize, though, is that this gives an access to a market that didn't necessarily or wouldn't necessarily have it otherwise. You think about
I don't
No, hold on.
All right,
think
all
about
right.
an area
Tell me.
like out where Zach is in Rockford, where it may not have such a saturation of different styles and so on. And brown ales don't sell at all out there, but they sell decently on tap. If Zach puts something on tap now in a brown ale, he can then fill that into a growler and send it home with that person that might enjoy it. That not only lends credence to the idea that this is a product that is worth consuming by one of the consumers, but it also helps that brewery overall move beer. Now, we can argue about styles and whether or not they're cool or not forever, but I do think that's an important point. And he made this point online. This is not my point. This is his. But it's something that I found really worth thinking about. And I think this extends to not just Chicago, but the other part of this, like the rest of the state, and how that access to different styles and packaging is important.
Yeah, there's no minimum size. That's the funniest part, right? The initial version of this bill labeled and had, I think, three competing something.
I'm sorry, did you just say there's no minimum
There's no
size?
minimum size, which is the funniest part. The
Great.
initial version left out growlers and then mandated 3 different sizes that you could have, something like 32, 64, 128 or something, maybe 16, 32. And then in redrafting it, when everybody said, hey, wait a minute, here are the problems with this thing, they went back through and retooled it, put in maximum 128 and took out everything else.
So
Love it.
You can buy 8 ounces. to
Right,
go.
get it to go.
Cool.
So now
Which is
everybody's
illegal, but
allowed to say,
whatever.
no. This is the thing. What if you package it the right way?
Can
What
I
if-
get my
what if you
KVS
follow
to go? It's just a little vial
Exactly.
with a little thing around it and
What-
electrical tape on the
100%.
side.
You've
It's actually only an ounce.
You've got that. You've got an ounce. I followed the law to a T. I purged this little container. I went ahead and filled it this way with this dumb straw or tube or whatever. And here I've sealed it. I've labeled it. Take it away. Here are 4 or 5 to take on your cup.
What about the whole you're not allowed to sell less than 500 mil?
That's at retail. That's off premise.
Right.
But this is
No, this is on premise.
retail.
This is no.
These
It's
are
an
separate
on-premise
premises.
license.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
an on-premise.
on-premise.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you are a retailer, you cannot fill growlers. You can't put up a growler station in your bottle shop.
Was that actually covered in
well,
there?
for starters, no growler station because you wouldn't be pouring it, right? Somebody else would be filling it. Like the customer would come.
Well,
and
they
do it.
call them growler stations, but the store employee would be filling it for you. But
So if you look
On
at a
demand.
place,
yeah.
On demand, which
No,
is
it's
what
it's,
it
it's an
requires.
on-premise retail licensee.
So a Benny's without a tap room can't do it.
The state issues on-premise, off-premise, or combined. If the state issues you the on-premise or the combined, you're cool. If the state issues you the off-premise, the argument is that doesn't count. So if you're the Benny's that doesn't have the combined and only has the off-premise, that's a real issue for you.
So technically,
Well,
so
maybe.
technically at this
If
point,
anyone cared.
right.
Whole Foods could be doing
And they probably will be.
they will. Be, I'm
growlers,
sure of it.
but
They had plans
Benny,
to do
a
this
Benny's
ages
with
ago.
just an off-premise license could not.
Got it. Be missing
Yikes.
out on growler fill
Because
a day.
Because Whole Foods is going to be doing it.
Oh yeah, Amazon Prime.
Well, so I'm curious.
Get it in an
Deliver
hour.
it. Can they deliver it?
Why not?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason that this is being scoffed at a little bit, I think, is that it used to be that
Jaded.
it was, well, yes, but it was relatively difficult to get quite a bit of different beers. Like retail options weren't as much, bar options weren't as much. Going to the brewery was more of a big deal because it was like a place that you could actually get the beer. And now we're in like opposite of that land, at least in this general area. And if you travel around the country, lots of urban areas and quite a few rural areas also have all their local breweries, and you find the local stuff on tap. So is the basic thought here that this would be a big deal in the past because it would give us more options, and now it really doesn't because we already have these options?
Yeah, there's weight to that. That's definitely
Yeah,
a
I don't
true
think it-
statement. I mean, there's so many breweries that distribute here already that are sending package, draft, cans, et cetera, all the way down the line.
I mean, I've heard
It's
from people
less
associated
interesting.
with the guild that this was. I'm not going to say that it was. I'm going to say when it was communicated to me, it was communicated in a manner that we do care about our retail partners. For example, we're pushing this legislation. That's how it was communicated to me.
And yet they changed the version of the bill to accept themselves from the cleaning requirements.
Well, I mean, whatever. That was not fine. That's fine. The point being, I think it was as much a kind of an attempt at an olive branch. I do think so. That's how it was portrayed to me. And maybe it was because I kind of have gone out and kind of raised pitchforks and stuff like that, or had people at least on the show who've raised pitchforks over some of this stuff. And, maybe they're thinking, oh, man, we want to show that we like our retail partners. And I know there's probably people out there listening who are shaking their pitchforks at their radios, because I'm sure they're tuning in live, 105.5 FM, Lumpin Radio, Bridgeport, Chicago, WLPNLP. So if you are, go ahead and write me a letter, and I'll give you a T-shirt.
But it has to be a funny letter.
No, it has to be a review on the podcast that I like, or just a letter. If you send a letter calling me an idiot, and it won't be the first, then I'll send you a letter. We used to get a whole bunch of letters. We had somebody send me an in-character King Kona style postcard from Kauai, Hawaii. It was amazing. So we got to get back to that, guys. Come on.
Do we think? I'll play cynic role for a minute. Do we think there's any reason why the guild would support this legislation now that the market is saturated enough to where they feel like they could just use those incremental sales? Like that 2% might help get XYZ brewery over the line for what their projections should be for next year.
I think it only
by that
depends
sale.
on it only depends on would that customer have not bought craft beer otherwise? Would they have not bought package? Would they have not got another beer there at the bar instead? Would they have not also gone to a liquor store and bought craft? Then it helps them.
I'm just thinking total sales for the year, right? Because you're
Right,
looking at
but if they say no to, if they wouldn't have gotten a growler but then pick up a 6-pack of craft anyway, it's moot. They're still moving the volume.
Right. Although at an on-premise location,
you might have
right,
a
they're
few beers,
having
you
a
might
few-
like
right.
something, and then say, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a growler with this."
Like an
'Cause not-
impulse buy.
right?
Yeah.
Not every store is like your store where you have a
Exactly.
few beers and then you go over and you get your, a lot of places you have a few beers and then you go home.
So it's
And-
like the as seen on TV knickknacks by the checkout counter at Walgreens.
Well,
Like,
Yes.
that's what they're
The
going
impulse
for now.
purchase.
And that was
Yeah.
also kind of what I was alluding to when it came to access to marketplace. I mean, the whole, what was the Bart's thing, the whole March to 20 to 20. You don't do that by staying at specialty retail. You do that by penetrating the marketplace as a whole. And if you give the marketplace as a whole an easier access point, that's how that happens.
Well, if you're going to be penetrated, then that's saying that people like Buffalo Wild Wings are going to be doing growler fills.
Yeah, I bet they will, and
You
they
think?
should. Yeah, I bet you see Applebee's roll this out. I bet you see a lot of people do this because
Ashley said absolutely 100%.
I
It was
bet
not
you
on
see.
mic.
I bet you see. Thank you. Yeah, I bet you see like gas stations that might have. Well, maybe not gas stations if they don't have the.
You have to have the
the-
You gotta-
the
gotta have the
How many
on-premise
people do we
license,
see
yeah.
get combined licenses now and be able to switch to be
Sure.
able to do the two? How it wouldn't be difficult to add a cold, like if you have an existing cooler, to run a cold box or a oh my god, I have a sister
Direct draw
certification.
kegerator.
No, shadow box on the side of the wall. Sorry, Ray. Like right there with taps right on the side, and change your license to combine to be able to pour a growler on your way out through a
You
I don't
can't
know, a
pour it.
Circle K or a Shell or whatever.
Your,
and
your
like,
employee has to pour it, and they have to
well,
follow the standard.
well, yes, but
this keeps coming up.
But,
we
like-
can't have the
But-
filling
but-
station.
but these
we're
C
not
stores,
New York or Tennessee. where
No,
you can just do it.
but these C stores are actually paying attention and understanding
Mm-hmm.
that this is volume for them.
Sure.
And it's not hard to put somebody in place that could actually do that training or actually or actually maintain a program like
mean,
that at
what's-
select locations that will move volume.
What's the purpose of the growler, right? You have to drink it quick, or growler within a few days. But the growler really is, I'm taking this to a party.
Yeah.
I'm bringing this home
It's
to a
on the
dinner.
way.
I'm bringing this somewhere with some people. So the
That's-
gas station, that place that meets those requirements seems.
I don't.
Like the
I don't.
perfect
I
way.
don't. I think the purpose of a crowler or a growler is really, I want customers to be able to take my beer to go, and I do not have a bottling and canning line. That is what I think the true, or I am not
Well,
set up to
I'm-
put this beer in it. That's what I think.
I'm
it
kind of
really
with you on
is.
that too. With this.
So I don't
no
think it's a
restriction in
need. I think it's
size.
kind of pushed. The need is pushed on it because it's like, well, you can't get it any other way, and this is how you're going to get it. I can't give it to you in a can. I can't give it to you in
Sure.
a bottle. If I
But
could,
if
I would.
If I'm
I
at the
don't-
beer temple with a stroller and I
Right.
want to walk with some more stuff,
Right.
And you can't sell me that thing on tap, and I don't want to walk next door to the wonderful room where I can purchase packaged goods.
Sure.
I get that thing to go, and I say, oh, give me 13 ounces of that. in
Yeah.
a can.
This
Or in a
Lagunitas
glass
IPA
that's
was
sealed.
filled-
Yeah, right.
was filled with $1 million
I
bottling machine.
pop that thing off.
But I can put it into this
Yeah,
thing on
there
a
you
rubber
go.
hose.
I want to do it.
What do you think?
No, with a 13-inch rubber hose. Come on.
13-inch rubber hose. What do you think?
Did you purge though
I'm
with
hoping that's
with
PVC.
purge with carbon dioxide prior to sealing the container, without instructing these poor schmucks when you do that.
Right. Yeah.
I think technically, if you purge the container after the beer is in it, then the beer will all leave.
Well, go,
So
whoosh. No, I'm just gonna breathe over the top of it.
Purging the headspace.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm gonna take the headspace and I'm gonna go.
There you
See,
go.
this is why you have to clean the mics every time. Just
The sound effects.
It's the purge.
It's the ASMR version of the podcast.
It's true. I just smell my own breath the following week. That's what it is. from all my
It's
high-end
your
purging.
beer spittle.
Yeah,
on
my
the
beer
screen.
spittle. I certainly hope not. I've got to see a dentist if that's the case. Well, why don't we take a little bit of an early music break? Is that okay? Cool. I'm getting the double thumbs up that that's okay. And then we'll get into our next topic, which I'm excited about, which is, I think, some examples of growth that we've seen from craft breweries this year. Kind of a variety of them, how different breweries are succeeding in 2019. I know just a few months ago we were talking about what was going to happen this year, so we're kind of halfway through and figured it might be a good time to talk about it. So all that, but first we're going to listen to some tunes for a few moments and then come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtables. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my guests. What order should I go in? We'll go with Vavrick Adam, Daniels Ray,
Yo.
Mastny Steve, and Brandt Ashley. How are you? How are you, everyone? Ashley seems very engaged in whatever he's doing. Not being on the show.
I was looking
I'm-
at the
I'm
outline
looking
for the
at your
show,
outline.
Actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just
come
gonna-
on.
gonna
Right.
tell
No one else is looking at the notes, so someone has to.
Hey, yeah.
true.
I got them right here
Yeah.
on the phone.
Guilty.
So let's go.
With my notes in red.
So, yeah, I was just reading a couple different articles, and honestly, even some Instagram posts and a whole bunch of stuff. I think it actually started out with a Facebook post I saw from owner of a local beer shop here in the Chicagoland area, talking about how do breweries with 8,000 breweries, how do you remain unique, and it kind of went from there, and we can get into it. So I just started looking at what different breweries who seem to be succeeding in their own way. You know, success can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And just wanted to look at it and see if that kind of we could paint a picture with that, or if these are just snapshots of that maybe are independent of one another. But a couple that I saw was Night Shift. And we talked last year about their Nightlight, their like straight up light lager. We are a light lager. We are not a session IPA. We're not a golden ale. We are a light lager, and we're going to put light in the name, and we're going to sell it in multi-packs only, and we are just going to go right at kind of the big guys at what they do best. And they are expanding, and they, I think, went from something like 30,000 barrels to 40,000 barrels, and a lot of the growth they attribute to this Nightlight. And now they have Limelight lager, so it's like the Bud Light Lime, right? I mean, but they're. I'll say one thing: they are going head on.
How is the beer?
I don't know. I haven't had it. Now, what I could hot
Do
take.
you want it based on what
No.
you've said so far?
No, I don't. I don't want it at all. But I mean, look who you're asking. I mean,
Does anybody in this room want it based on what you've heard so far?
Well, Chris is talking about it, so I would at least try it.
if it was in the room, I would
try
say,
anything Chris talks about.
yeah. If it was in the room right now, I would say yes. Open it up right now. But just because I'm curious,
And I'll just lay bets right now that it's never going to be in this room unless somebody
Oh,
carries
no,
it back.
I bet someone will bring
Unless
it in.
somebody carries it back
Right.
from one of the few states that they
that's
get
with two
distribution
t-shirts.
in. They're at 3-4 states at this
Yeah.
point. They are never going to be distributed in this state. That
Right.
I would lay bets on.
right? I think that's okay. That's fair. But now they're also doing hard seltzer. So I mean, they're a little guy
With or without THC?
All right.
without.
Yet, so far.
I'm going to limit myself to 2 per story.
So now it's, but these guys are one of the like success stories, one of the rapid growers. 10,000 barrel growth in a year, and but they're definitely and they're expanding, and they want to continue to grow, and they want to continue this rapid growth in a time where. So I guess I should have set the stage. Growth is very much overall stagnant. Growth in craft is almost, well, I'm not going to say it's non-existent, but it's in the mid-single digits. And, when somebody's growing by, 33% year over year, I mean, that's a lot bigger than, 3%. So, that was...
And they're not 5,000 barrels.
Right, and they're not
They're
exactly
some significant size, yeah.
Exactly. They're yeah. So just in context, they'd be one of the larger breweries in Illinois, and they're in Massachusetts, and yeah, they're definitely in the top 100 nationally now. What do you think about this strategy?
If I were a craft brewer, I would be terrified by this.
I would too.
Because here's the thing. I think basically what they're doing is they're giving people who really deep down want a light beer permission to drink what they really want, instead of feeling like they have to have another IPA, right? That IPA, light beer is not cool anymore. So the average, whatever, millennial, upper middle class, however you want to describe the craft beer drinker, like some of those people truly don't really like IPAs, but they're drinking them for the same reason that idiots in the 80s drank imported beers in green bottles.
Low and brow,
because that's what was cool, and their friends wouldn't think much of them if they had a Miller Lite, so they were drinking Heineken or Low and Brow or St. Pauli's Girl or whatever it was. So now we're basically, here's somebody that says, hey, we're a craft beer and it's light. So, yeah, you're cool and you can drink what you really want. So if I were a craft brewer, I'd be like freaking terrified by this.
Why? Because it's showing that people don't like craft beer.
Yeah, because it's basically showing like there's a population of people out there who really want to drink light beer, so long as they can be cool.
But we knew that from the very beginning, and I think, and nothing personal, but I think we do a disservice by saying they're idiots or easily
I don't
swayed.
think Ray said that they're idiots.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
I said the people in the 80s
the
were
80s
idiots.
were idiots. But my point is, like, we knew that was the fact. There's a reason that 80% or whatever it is, the population drinks Pilsner. It's light, crisp, easy drinking. You don't have to think too much about it.
Well, when you say Pilsner, Ray would say they're not drinking Pilsner.
Macro Pilsner.
Exactly.
But that's built off of a foundation, right?
It's called American Light Lager.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah,
classic
okay.
Bohemian Golden Lager, isn't that the?
we can get there is what I'm saying. But
Classic Bohemian Pilsner
look at
lager.
what was the
light,
one beer we all
adjunct,
agreed
please.
on that was phenomenal tonight?
Red Pils.
It's a craft
light
Pilsner,
lime.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So
But that's a real Pilsner. I mean,
Right.
there's like 35, 40 IBUs.
yeah, but change doesn't happen
all
overnight.
malt, all
Change
that,
doesn't
all
happen
that stuff.
overnight. These things
But
take
these guys
a
are
lot of
talking
time.
These guys are in
about
Boston.
like an
This is
adjunct.
home
I
of
assume this is an
Hazewell.
adjunct beer. I don't know that.
Is Boston not known for lagers? Did I miss something?
They're known recently, as they used to be, for harpooning haze whales and bringing them on shore.
I would
and
disagree.
trading them across the nation, exporting them all over.
All right, tell me about Hoof-Hearted.
with amber,
Yeah.
with amber lagerish.
Yeah, no, Boston
Whalers.
beer, obviously. Yeah, exactly. No,
But
I mean,
seriously, like this shouldn't be a surprise that we're coming back to lagers. It's a reaction to all the things that have happened in the past 10 years, and the way that the IPA craze was a reaction to all the things that had happened prior to that, which was not particularly interesting. The fact that the American consumer
I
take
surprised by
exception to
this.
that
Hold on,
comment.
Hold on. Considering that was a reaction to the things prior to that. Everything constantly moves and is in flux. If you look at the cocktail culture that is absolutely destroying the beer culture right now, it's based on a palate that will accept things that are far more bitter. That's why Negronis are popular. Why do we think that is? Is it because suddenly people had sweet things prior? No, the answer is because they were already drinking things like IPA and wanted to amp it up, but in a completely different level and way that made it acceptable to drink the same amount of bitterness, but in something that your older brother wasn't.
They're not
drinking.
actually bitter. You just perceive them as bitter.
Well, we've already. Well, you know what? I'm not going to be that much of a jerk tonight.
Charles Sanders Pearson.
But
Like
but
American
seriously, like
pragmatism, is
what
that-
what's the reaction to that? It's either malt or it's like what is it?
I don't know.
As
I
we
mean,
get
I'm just
older,
gonna say, I
we
don't
like
know.
nostalgia, right? That's why everything old is cool again. So
Well,
that's why
Bud Light
lagers
Lime
are cool
is not
again.
old, but
Bud
I
Light
mean-
Lime
Thank you.
is old at this point. It's what, 15 years old?
No, is it really?
Come on.
At least 10.
Zima is cool again, or at least it
Zima
was for
even
about
exist?
6 minutes. Yeah, they brought it back.
Well, so I mean, part of what we're talking about here, though, is like so lagers are one thing, but specifically branding something as a light lager is kind of going out of your way to say this tastes like not very much. Like the whole point is that it's crisp and it tastes like not
disagree
very
with that.
much.
It should taste like something. The problem is it got lost along the
Is
way
it-
over 70 some odd years in which it kept getting dithered
It-
down and
hold
dithered
on.
down to where it had to be a reaction.
Is this
to
not
come
about
back.
calories? This light thing is not the way they're using is not about the calorie content. It's
No,
about,
health beer.
It's about
Health
flavor.
beer is definitely a thing right now, but I do think that flavor plays a part in it. I don't think consumers will accept the same light beer that they accepted previously. I think that the palate has shifted because
That's
of
what
that.
Ray was just saying, right? They won't accept it, but he's saying they won't accept it because it's not cool, not because it tastes necessarily different. In fact, if anything, I would say this cocktail culture is just coming back to, you know, the human palate likes certain things and always has, and it's going to come back to these things, and it's probably going to sway back and forth. And yeah, people like light, easy to drink things that they don't really need to think about. And oh, if it tastes like, I mean, Bud Light Lime was just all right.
It's
This is-
insipid. Let's just do
It's
that.
not like
It's
no,
just-
it's not
terrible.
that. It's not that. It's so I don't
I know
have
people
any
who love that
data
beer.
on this, so this is a big hot take. But if I had to guess, I'd say somebody in a marketing or sales room was looking at Corona and being like, "Huh, people really like this. This throw a lime in it strategy seems to be working well for them. All right, well, we're just going to make our light beer with lime." And now you've got a craft brewery just doing that too, because I guess oh bastards is fine. I know for a fact it is. I
Dump
know
it again.
is.
Go ahead, dump it
Dump
again.
it again. It's fine. It's fine.
I feel like bastards.
Ah, mine. My.
My. All right, so let's go on. I'm trying to find
Yeah,
out
right
when
on.
Bud Light Lime was made available, but oh, maybe it's Bus Light Lime. That's why I can't find it. Yeah.
Why does it matter? Like, let's say it's 20 years old or 30 years old or 5 years old. What's the difference to the fact that now there's a craft, brewery, which by the definitions of the Brewers Association, I assume that they are craft. Like
Are we talking today or tomorrow?
yesterday.
Cool.
The why does it matter? Like,
It's 11 years old.
and so like if it had been 10 or 5 or 1 or 20, like, is it relevant?
I mean,
Just curious.
just in the reading you gave us, like I was struck by this quote: "You can make light beer exciting and interesting." And it's like, wow, I guess I kind of thought that that's what Budweiser and Coors had been doing for the last 35 years.
Right, Spuds McKenzie and all that.
Right. How are they making it interesting with different packaging?
With lime,
Well, no, that's not.
it's
mean,
like
that's just them-
Right. It's kind of like, really? No, I think all you're really doing is saying we're a craft brewery and it's a light beer. It's okay.
So what to me scares what scares me, Ray, is I think it scares me similarly to you, but in a different way. It's you are going, like what I said, they're going right at these people. Hard seltzer, light lagers and multi-packs, and lime light lager. This is the bread and butter. You are playing into a beer that very well you may not be able to compete even closely on the terms that the drinker of those beers cares about. And if you use a higher quality of lime extract, I don't think anyone cares.
Probably be better.
I mean,
It's peeing in the wind. It's you're only if it's 5% of the population that's buying that particular product anyway.
and think of the economies of scale that
Yeah,
you're
it's-
losing on these hard seltzers. It's
That's
just
why it makes sense for breweries to make
Well, I mean,
pilsners.
and we already have a precedent of hard
That's why it
seltzer
scares
as a
me.
major craft beer. Right?
yeah.
Are we talking about not your father's root beer or something else?
No, we're talking
No,
about
we're talking about beer today.
we're talking about Sam Adams is one of the major players in hard seltzer, right? They're a craft brewer.
And they're out of Boston,
Yeah,
where Nightlight
right,
is,
exactly.
or
Yeah. So it's like,
Night Shift.
yeah.
But Night Shift, when I first had them, I mean, I think they were like,
Wait, you said you hadn't had it.
no, I hadn't had Night Light. I've had
Oh, okay.
Night Shift
Got it.
beers.
All right.
They were like $7.50 only.
Thought I caught you there.
They were doing sours, fruited sours, like early on, like Berliners. Like they were known as like the Berliner Weiss brewery and stuff like that. So they've definitely pivoted somewhat to the light lime industrial lager.
But I mean, everybody's kind of doing that, right? With the
Yeah.
with the light sour.
But here's somebody who isn't doing it. And this is hoof-hearted. No, you don't need to hit
What is it?
the dump button.
What is hoof-hearted?
It's hoof-hearted.
Hoof-hearted.
They-
Hearted.
But I saw when you sent these around pictures of swimming pools,
Movie stars.
pictures.
Describe
pictures of
describe
people
like
having
what
an
you
amazing
saw.
time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
what it looked like to me was that somewhere in Ohio, a few dudes have decided
It's like
that,
it's like
How
you're in
did they
Vegas.
figure that out?
they want to create an experience, which is the big thing. And that experience involves some amazing place where, by chance, they also make beer and people come drink.
Partying.
It looked like it was a giant party. And
Partying.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh,
I wanted to go.
couldn't
I saw
agree.
these pictures and I thought, wow, this is a place that we should go hang out.
Yeah.
We should do the podcast from there.
Yeah, I want to go and be the lamest person there, and just watch all the cool
Yes.
people. Yeah. Totally. So Hoof-Hearted has been known for a while for their kind of outrageous names and their labels and stuff like that. One of the
How have
early,
they not gotten sued by Nintendo yet?
Oh my god! How is half the
Like, I'm looking
I mean,
at this
come
right
on.
now. This is insane.
IP
It even
theft?
has the Billy guy that got that lost his championship with Donkey Kong
It
on
is-
a Conky Dong label.
It is definitely one of their tropes is to take nostalgia and not use it as inspiration, but to just put it on a label. Is definitely one of the things that they do.
Maybe they paid for it, or maybe they're hoping
Yeah,
that they can get away with
definitely
parody.
paid
I
for
mean,
Or
look-
maybe
look-
they're
look-
hoping
look,
they'll
look
get
where that
sued.
hole is at.
Right, true. Anyway, so that's what they were doing early on, and now they are. If you look at their, so what I did was basically sent around their Instagram, and this came from the Facebook thread that someone said, "How are people being unique?" And somebody send me examples of breweries that are standing out and being unique, and one of the ones that was getting a lot of likes as an example was this brewery, Hoof-Hearted, and. It says here, check out their Instagram, and the first one was their rodeo party, where everyone should dress up like a cowboy or a cowgirl or whatever.
It was formal,
bull.
formal cowboy.
Formal cowboy.
Is the
right.
swimming pool theirs? Like, do they actually
I
have
think
a
it
swimming
is.
pool?
I mean,
That's
you're.
amazing.
I mean, I know that you're. Yeah. You're just thinking of all the slip injury cases you could get. You're going to move.
I'm not only
Right
going
now
to move,
you're
I'm,
up-
I'm going to take up an entire different practice. of law.
Exactly. He's already looking up, real estate there so he can move.
Have they had a toga party?
Yeah, I mean, they probably have.
You got to figure.
But anyway, so it's like that. It's definitely like that style of college, just out of college style party. Just like a big kind of rager, fun thing. You know what it reminds me of? the way parties were depicted in movies in the 80s. Where you would like watch Teen Wolf
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this looks great. I can't wait to get to high school, or whatever. it
Or
was.
like Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield kind of thing. That's sort of like over the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the culture that they're trying to show.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how well they're doing, financially. I don't know, anything like that. I do know that this was picked out by a bunch of people on a highly industry-heavy thread on Facebook, which is worth very little, but whatever. Of these guys get it. They're standing out.
Which
and to
thread
me, it
is
was
this?
just they're a bar. They are a bar. They're a nightclub, or not a nightclub, but they're a club. And and Ray, I honestly thought about you and what you said a while back here on the show was you were saying it as the wine taproom model was the future for beer. This is, I think, that abstracted quite a little bit, where it is on premise, it is coming and having experience there.
Experience, yeah.
But it's very beer. It's not
Yeah,
wine.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
very beer.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely get that. I mean, these guys are so local that, you sent us links to their Instagram page. I looked at both links. I looked at their profile. The only link on their profile was to the open table to make a reservation. I went to the reservation page and I could make a reservation for 6 o'clock tonight. And I could not figure out where in the United States they were. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll make a reservation, and maybe when they send me a confirmation email, I'll figure out where the heck they are, and I might know something more about them. But they are so hyper local that they're not even telling people what state they're in, because they assume you know what state they're in if you're actually looking.
If you
at
don't
their
know,
stuff.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I finally figured it out by taking their name and Googling it with the word brewery and figuring it out.
Right.
Because even when I first started Googling and it came up Marengo, and I'm like, oh, that's in Illinois. It's like, no, it's not. It's in Ohio. Okay,
Yeah.
So,
But that is another way that people are succeeding. I think they're an example of having something be an experience. And again, on this thread, when people were listening to people who were being unique, I saw time and again it was, I love this guy. I love going to their tap room. I love this place. I love going to their tap room. I love this. I love the fests that they put on. I love this place, and it was definitely the experiences that these breweries give me at the source, which is great, but it's good, but I don't know how. I mean, what do you think, Ray?
It's fundamentally unscalable, I think, is part of where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's essential to the survival of a retail operation. I mean, retail is dying in America, right? The internet is killing retail everywhere you look. And, I think some of the bar owners and restaurant owners who are carping about breweries killing their business.
It's because they're killing them at creating experiences.
Right. It doesn't. Yeah,
totally agree.
It's not about that. So I mean, these guys are creating an experience, and they're going to survive. Right? They're going to make it happen. And that's just where we are right now in our world.
Right. Yeah. And I will say that I think the bar owners who are harping on it are, there are almost as like a bygone era of what a bar should be.
Right.
And that might not be what younger people want it to be anymore.
Right.
They don't need it to be that. They don't want it to be that. They don't want to be a place where you can kind of get away from it all and chat with your neighbor next to you. They want it to be this kind of larger than life experience that looks amazing on Instagram and has a lawyer wanting to move and set up practice next to you to get slip and fall cases.
Hey, if Beer Temple had a pool, I would be there all day.
I mean, if you don't see it, he's literally salivating.
Well,
He's salivating.
Just-
And he blinked, and I thought for a moment I saw a dollar sign in his eye. But I could have been wrong.
Just 2 nights ago, I went to a new club in Chicago that is a magic club. They're like totally.
Heard about that.
Yeah, I know.
I heard about
I was really disappointed because some older friends of mine planned birthday party for one of my older friends whose birthday shall go unmentioned. But at this place, and I was so disappointed that I didn't get there because the younger people in my office had told me about it. And I was like, I'm going to get there and it's going to be so cool. And I got beat to the punch. Anyway, it's a magic lounge. It's a magic club. And it's like, yeah, it's pricey. Yeah, but it's really cool. They're doing magic right there and you can't figure out how the heck they're doing it. That's an experience. That's what gets people's butts off of the couch and gets them out to do, into retail establishments to spend money, right?
But does that get you there on a
Regular
Tuesday,
basis.
Wednesday, Thursday?
We were there.
Night?
We were there on a Tuesday night.
Right. So I guess it's just groups then, group
say it.
outings, planned outings, and stuff like that.
Parties, stuff like that.
If you did that
Events,
at a bar or had the
events.
guy going through, that would be the same thing.
It's events.
Compete with Netflix. Come on.
Does it matter what night you go as long as you go, right?
Right. I mean, if enough people go overall.
So these guys are killing it, not because they're being hyper local or being a bar, because they're doing a great experience, because they're providing consumers with a reason to get off the couch and go out and seek something that they can't get just sitting in front of their TV.
Right. Right. That's true.
And that is the future of retail in America.
Yep. I think you are. I think you're right. I do think that there will still be experiences that are less. Well, let me say, I certainly hope that there are still experiences that are less bombastic than that one.
Less dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, I hope.
Sure.
Because as much as it would be fun to experience, I don't want to be at that place right now. I want to be at Delilah's or something. I want to be in a dark, weird old, rockabilly punk place with a whole bunch of bottles of whiskey on the wall. But maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe, it's just like the meteor's hit and I just
Then
haven't
we
died
talk to
yet.
you about that.
You go to Carol's any night.
Right? But so here's another one. Another example of somebody who is stepping outside the norm and being unique. And it was a place I saw on the gram, as the kids call it.
Nobody calls it that.
Well, I do. And I'm a kid at
Wait,
heart.
they're not? You don't? All right, I'm going to have to stop using that with my daughter.
Insta.
Right, it's
Yeah, it's
unusual
not the
to
gram,
shorten
it's
it
Insta.
from the
Yeah,
second
right.
half.
Yeah.
And if they were, they'd
I
say
think
like
I figured
gram.
that out. Gram is too generic.
true.
Insta is the identifiable thing.
Insta.
Got it.
They'd call it gra. They
Insta.
like to truncate like big time,
Well, yeah,
Right.
it saves time.
Right.
It's like
Stagra.
the same thing as a
Stagra.
portmanteau.
Stagra? Okay.
You have to take out all the vowels. So it's
Stagra.
It rhymes with something not good. We shouldn't
Yeah.
go there.
So anyway, it was Sour Coolers, frozen craft beer, and it was essentially a Capri Sun pouch. Not essentially. I mean, it is a Capri Sun pouch.
How do you put the straw in? From the top or from the bottom?
So I think what you do
It's
is
not a Capri Sun. Or, well, I guess it is a Capri Sun pouch, but you're doing it wrong.
they're trying to equate it, but they don't have the means to create that little circle of slightly
You don't
weaker.
need it. You turn it upside down and go right through the bottom. Where are you people from? How do you not know how to drink a Capri Sun?
I would just always poke it through the circle and then go right through the back, and then the whole thing would leak out, and that would be the end.
Right.
That's I don't think I've ever been this frustrated on this
right.
program before. I honestly.
Well, there you are. Take it from Vav. He knows how to open up Capri Suns, but apparently Mellow Mink Beer also doesn't know how to do it because they have it through the top. But essentially, it's these weird
I bet they'd agree
Capri
with me.
Sun shaped packages that have the little what are those things called? They're not Ziplocs essentially at the top, and you just open up a little bit and put your straw in.
So, Ashley, would that be legal to serve off premise as a growler?
Was it filled with a
purged?
13
A+.
Was it
inch
purged?
hole?
What if you put it? Yeah, the straw could maybe be part of that. 13 inches.
Because you can blow the purge into the straw.
And this is honestly, Steve's entirely right. This is not funny. This is not funny.
This is not. No, I agree.
Frozen beer. No one said what state that beer had to be in. It can go into that container.
Yeah.
And it can be frozen. There's absolutely no reason that's
Wait,
not the
this
case.
is Mellow Mink
Now
Brewing?
it might have to be in glass.
Mellow Mink.
So you have to take it as a
I will
a
say-
I will
glass.
say I like the name.
I will also say that, like many other ideas that I've seen that are crazy like this, I do remember Edmar saying he wanted to do this several months ago. So, yeah, it's essentially a Capri Sun package, 6.2 alcohol, Blossom Cherry Sour frozen craft beer. It's like a beer slushy package.
I see it.
And it's novelty. It's novelty, right? Or no? Is this the new?
I've
This-
been
is
to a
this-
cidery that had something along those lines. Like
30 by 30? Is it going to be 30% sour slushy packs by 2030? Is that where we're going now?
It's worth pointing out that
Just this
Shoot me now.
future?
Alex Kidd, Don't Drink Beers, commented on this and says, "Please stop sending me this."
Right.
I feel like that's notable. I don't know. They don't look like they kind of look like Capri Sun packaging, but it also kind of looks like it has a full zip line across the entire top of it.
Well, they're trying
so it's
to
like,
be
So
that.
it's like a like a sandwich bag kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Which
Ziploc stuff.
we've seen
put it
we've
in
seen
glass. Oh, come
we've
on.
seen dong beers go in delis, so why not sandwich bags? Sorry, draft only, no growler. Apologies. I don't if you guys don't know that terminology.
New one to me.
No one to me.
Oh man.
We also don't drink
spend-
our Capri Suns upside down.
I
so.
well,
Draft only, no growlers.
yeah.
Wait, and then you put it into a sandwich bag?
Yeah, well, there were people. Okay, so I'm only tertiarily aware of this from the forums I hang out on, because it's good to know. Yeah, I'll
Capri
have-
Sun
to give you
form.
beer to
I'm
pass
unaware
when
of
you're
the Cicerone
talking.
serving container for
as long as
Category?
according to Illinois, as long as it's cleaned and sanitized properly, it's perfectly
hold on.
acceptable.
Let's look it up. I think it's got to be glass or
Clean, sanitized, and rinsed previously.
But
It
honestly,
needs to be rigid. Rigid is the key.
but let's talk about this. So
I didn't make that up.
this is also another thing where
down.
it's novel, it's experiential, right? I mean, I think this has a lot to do with This is a lot closer to me to
I don't hate
Half-Hearted
it.
than it is to Night Shift. I mean, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it
I
either.
don't feel really. It's. I just think it was probably like a silly thing that they wanted to do, and people thought it was cool and novel, and it makes for a good picture.
I like
And-
it because it's kind of like it's a frozen beer product, right? So like kind of like one of those frozen cocktails that you put in a slushy machine kind of thing. And
But are those
I-
best beers? Are those best not made from beer?
I think it doesn't matter. What I think is interesting is
It
the
does
final
matter.
product. Well, hold on. If you're making a frozen cocktail, then no, it shouldn't be from beer. If you want to do a frozen beer cocktail, then yes, it should be from beer. They're two very separate categories that are two sides of the same coin.
Right.
When you go home from 7-Eleven with warm beer and you put it in the freezer, and then you forget the one, and in the morning you're like, oh, and then
Yeah.
you open it, and
F it, I got to make something. Let's
Right.
get some strawberry puree and whatever.
If you want
like,
a frozen beer cocktail, you're obviously a brewer who wants to sell a frozen cocktail but doesn't have a distiller's license.
I appreciate the laissez-faire attitude towards it because
That's the truth. That is the truth.
probably.
I mean, frozen beer cocktails are
It's not a cocktail.
Well, I can tell you this: we do
Nor
this.
is it beer.
We do this at
but it is frozen.
we do this with
True.
cider, which according to Illinois is not beer or wine. But we do this at at various locations with like the frosé kind of thing, which is super hot. People are trying to do, or at least was last year. Somebody told me the new one
at
that's
least
cool
12
this
months
year,
ago.
but I don't remember. Yeah, there's definitely one that's usurped it, but I don't know what it is because I don't pay that much.
This
attention,
feels like
but-
self-parody,
You're out of
but I
date?
think he's serious.
No, I mean it's why take anything
you.
seriously at the end
right.
of the day.
Well, I mean, to me, a lot of this stuff is also like even rosé, frosé, all that stuff. Does it look good on Instagram? No. Oh, okay. Next idea. Next idea. Oh, that one. Good. Okay. get a bunch of those packets, put them in there. That'll work. I mean, say what you will about Night Shift. At least they're going after something that at least has
it's
a
beer.
and it has a proven track record. I mean, they might be kind of like swimming, head on into the mouth of the shark, but
Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism.
They'll get acquired in 2 years for a boatload of money.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a 6 times multiplier.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's $200 million.
Boring.
I'm thinking more like way up in the double digits.
Yeah.
More like Ballast Point kind of stuff.
But then there's a $200 million deferral the next year. For
I don't
what
know
do they
what
care?
you're talking about.
What do they care? What do they're gone. They're already starting their cocktail program.
I just want to say that I wasn't really.
they had
able
one and they
to
sold
keep-
it.
No, I'm talking about Night Shift.
Oh,
I wasn't able to keep track of the conversation earlier about capris, so I had to roll my pants up. So
Oh, I like
felt
it.
some
Clam
pre
bake.
relationship.
your feet are soaking wet, but your ankles are bone dry. Everything's coming up.
We're
Ray
old
Daniels.
school. We're old school. We had Capri Suns, and he's like, old school. I'll show you old school. We're the clams. Okay, so, and all this is in relationship to, so all these breweries, even Night Shift not excluded. They're not a tiny brewery, but they're not a big regional brewery. And Brewbound just put out an article recently talking about how the top 50 are struggling, and this is what I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, that the state of beer at the CBC was talking about, is how regional brewery growth is at 0%, or was last year, I should say. I don't know where it is the first half of this year, but there was an article saying that many of the top 50 craft breweries in the country are struggling to grow. Meanwhile, these little guys are growing, which is exactly what you said was the way forward, Ray, however long ago. And that shows me that these top 50, they're too big to be purely experiential. And they're in a kind of a tough spot because they kind of were stupid and didn't realize you just needed to put in a pool and serve slushies. And it's interesting because it does I'd like to get your opinions, and what I will tend to do and will do now is give my opinion first, which is the long tail is getting really, 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 really long, and it's harder for that tail to kind of move further up the chain. And I think that's exactly, if I were Big Beer, that's exactly where I would want them to stay. I'm fine with you being experiential because you can't scale that experience because, Buffalo Wild Wings is an experience.
That's what BrewDog is all about, right? Aren't they all about scaling that experience? Trying to get you into their airplane, trying to get you to their pub, trying to get you
it's
to their
why
hotel.
nobody cares.
Right. Yeah, that's
They
a fair
they
point.
care in a
That's
lot of
entirely fair point. I
places.
think
They
that's
care
right.
in a lot of places, but do they care? I don't know. Maybe they're an exception, or maybe they are the model that is going to become, the rule. It certainly is more difficult than going to you're going down the street on your way home and picking up a beer that you think is enjoyable and that you think is well made and maybe is made locally and stuff like that. Sometimes, unlike Ashley, sometimes I'm coming home on a Thursday night from work and I don't want to go to a pool party dressed like a formal cowboy. But other times I do, I guess.
Is there really ever a time that you don't want to do that?
Ashley. That's just. you guys don't see him now.
That's
That's
just
not
Thursday
even.
night.
That's got to be at least minimum 35-gallon. That hat you have on right now.
That's over a barrel.
I've seen
And
fish tanks.
these are Lucchese boots.
I've seen fish tanks smaller than the capacity of that hat, Ashley. But anyway, that aside, I don't know, Ray, come on, drop some wisdom
Well,
that I can refer to.
Yeah,
years
I mean,
from now.
all of this is going to succeed, and none of it is going to succeed.
Sage.
And what I've been saying, I think for a while now, is that the beer industry is starting to look more and more like the restaurant industry. It used
why
to
is
be.
that? Yeah.
Well, come on. It used to be in beer. Like when I was 30 years old, I could drink every beer imported into America in the course of a week, and not regret it too much, right? Because there weren't that many options, right? And, now today it's like NFW, and
You can't even have every beer made in your city
in
a week.
and within 100 miles of my home in the course of a week. Yeah, that's just not possible anymore. So, I mean, the beer industry started to look more like the restaurant industry. There's a million different options. There's different
Challenge accepted.
yeah, there you go. All right, Ashley. All right, you're on. Come on, let's do that. And there's going to be local, there's going to be party, there's going to be serious, there's going to be, there's just going to be every possible option. There's going to be frozen, there's going to be high carbonation, low carbonation, there's going to be light, there's going to be heavy, there's going to be black, there's going to be white, there's going to be red, brown, purple, green, literally every possible thing you can imagine. And some people who do every one of those things are going to succeed somewhere at some time. And some of the people who do the exact same thing somewhere else are going to fail, and they're going to go out of business. And some of the ones who boom to begin with are going to go bust and die 3 years later. And some of the ones that bump along for 10 years, 20 years, seeming like they're not going anywhere, are going to explode and become national stars all of a sudden, right? That's what happens in the restaurant business, right? Mm-hmm. And we see it all the time, right? We see the local guy start up, make good, become a franchise, and next thing you know, he's got 200 stores all over America. And we see the franchise that we've loved all our lives, get stale, complacent, and go bad and close, right? Mm-hmm. All of these things are happening in beer, and they're going to continue to happen in beer.
Yeah.
That's just where we are in the beer world.
I think that's a really amazing analogy, and honestly, it makes me feel differently, because you would never say, "Ugh, why does this restaurant exist?" You would just be like, "I don't like this restaurant," and just kind of,
it's not my thing.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm moving on.
Not my thing. And you would never say, "Well, I guess that's not fair," because I think it's more like, "Ugh, this restaurant is bad for the restaurant industry." You wouldn't really say that, You'd
right?
be,
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas we do still sort of say that about breweries.
Yes.
Like, why do these guys exist? They're hurting us all.
They're hurting us all. They're hurting us all.
Okay.
And if that is, I think maybe we're not quite to where you're saying, but I
Right.
definitely see us headed in that direction. And I don't think restaurants are going anywhere. As Mr. Mastny said prior to being on the air, I hope I'm not, stepping out of bounds by quoting an offhanded comment. Is I don't think people are not going to be wanting beer anytime soon. So
Right, and somebody's got to make it.
And somebody's got to exactly, and somebody's got to make it. They're all just trying to find their niche and kind of be who they are. It's interesting to me, though. Maybe like restaurants. Maybe like you see restaurants in too much of America now. There are no little independents. There's just these big guys.
It's all
There's
franchise.
just the franchises now. And I do think that the big breweries have positioned themselves to really dominate the market more than they have in a little while.
So
That I don't like.
For beer, yes. For restaurants, no. It's quite a bit different to restaurants. But your main point is.
Have
not
you ever
wrong.
driven like through on like a interstate or like through these towns? Like there's
and all
just
you
nothing
see is,
there.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Second, third tier towns,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh man, like I know every single one of these concepts.
No, it's
right.
Right.
Yeah, there's a reason they can get in. It's scale. It's not 1-to-1.
It's not one-to-one.
When you go to those concepts in the second and third tier towns, or when you go to a macro brewery that's making beer that is actually pretty good, and you can get it at the corner grocery store, is that a victory or not in the arc of, there used to be a few regional breweries that were all getting squashed to death by the macros, and then these little tiny micros started that were making something different. And now, the choice of beer is phenomenal, in part because the large guys are buying the little guys and making it more available. From a consumer standpoint, if what you're going for is like, hey, I want a good beer, we're in a much better place now than we were 40 years ago, that's for sure. Even if you killed all the craft and there was nothing but macro left, we'd be in a
because of what Kraft had done.
Because they own so many craft breweries.
Right.
Exactly, because of what Kraft has done. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
That's true. I mean, there's definitely some truth to that. And I guess I would also say, is there a difference between going to a 7-Eleven in a third-tier town and seeing a Sierra Nevada or seeing a Ballast Point? Is there a difference to that person there? I don't know.
That was kind of the point that I was trying to make earlier, which is that, we're a little more privileged in such a metropolitan town that has access to so many different things.
Right.
As you get further and further into the country, which makes up a decent portion of the population, your access to goods is limited because it is owned by such larger corporations. Grocery being the largest chain and channel for beer distribution. It's the same thing with food. It's why we all know Wonder Bread and Kraft mac and cheese and so on. It's why we're going to know the macro brands. The ability to penetrate that space, macro owned or not, is important to drive everything forward. And it's all I don't want to try to pretend like there's some sort of arrogance from being in an area that does make decisions that impact the rest of the country. But it is important to recognize that link happens, and it does take time. It's kind of the same thing with the growler thing. If, growlers may not mean a thing here in Chicago, but it might mean a lot in Sauget. Growlers might not mean a thing in Los Angeles, but it might mean something in Bakersfield and so on. And you move on throughout the rest of the country, and it's just like a spider web, and it takes a little bit more time.
I don't know if it is like a spider web. I mean, to me, like you see in the grocery store, is the model now that the big guys have learned when there's smaller threats, buy them quickly and just kind of take them in, and you see that in a grocery store too. I mean, how many health foods or whatever's, Burt's Bees, you start seeing Burt's Bees in Walgreens everywhere, and you're like, they must be doing really well. And I, don't know if they have been bought, but they've been bought. They've been bought because they're everywhere now. And that just means, okay, well, we don't want there to be, this big chapstick revolution, and everyone's buying, these natural chapsticks. Chapstick's just going to buy them. Unilever's going to buy them. And is that now the strategy to, just stay on top? Just offer that individual more money now than, they can say no to. And
yeah, it's category killing. It's classic large. It's late stage capitalism. This happens in all products across all areas, etc. Like this isn't
like,
new
for this.
But
what made me say
this is
that
beer getting to 20%
was for this to keep growing. What is this? This flavor that we like? Is it just a flavor we like? I mean,
well,
that's
who's
not,
we? Remember, going back, 80% of the beer, or whatever the actual number
What's
is, across
this?
the world. Also, remember, we're talking to a very small subset, to a very a decently small portion of the entire globe. So, everything we're talking about has ramifications across the entire world. And the fact that we're at 2 minutes, I think. Working in a restaurant's great for timing. Seriously though, like thinking about Ray's trips to China and how it's changing there versus how beer is changing in other markets and other countries, and how the idea that an IPA could sell in Germany, maybe not as well as some people have hoped, but the fact that it can, and that you can have breweries that are opening up and making all these other beers, means that at some point, it doesn't matter who's owning it, the flavor and the perception is changing somewhat. And that's
All right.
enough to change it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. We are out of time. I will mention, if you leave a review that I like or a letter, send in a letter that I like or don't like, you may get now it's May, noticed, a Zombie Dust t-shirt. No, it's not a Zombie Dust t-shirt. It's not sanctioned. Sorry. It's not. It's a Dust Brothers t-shirt. Thanks to all my guests. Ray, Ashley's already left. I think he saw an ambulance going down the street. Wow. Is anything that either of you guys would like to say?
I have something.
You just talked for 5 minutes.
Yeah, but this is important.
Hold on, before you go.
Go ahead.
Steve or Ray, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Chicago Beer Society is having a hazy IPA event. If you go to shybeer.org, you can learn about it.
And Ray?
The Chicago Industrial Arts and Design Center is having an annual gala next weekend that I'll be going to.
Sweet.
Both Chapstick Revolution and Formal Cowboy are both not in the trademark database for either beer or general. So if any breweries would like to make beers using those names, they're welcome to.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Remember this is what we said, to never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said, to never be heard or seen from again.